What have you learned from your audience feedback? Personally, I have learned that audience feedback is essential towards creating a better product. As simply as you get a range of views. From an audience feedback, the attributes that me and the group may not have picked on in the video, an audience feedback would have. And since we're creating the video for an audience, and if it's an audience of an indie genre and they exactly know the connotations and expectations of an indie genre and they've picked up on something we haven't, it's something that we've got to pick up and change on, and it's something exactly what happened. Okay, so through the early stages of planning, when we first planned our transition shots with the guitar, when we did our the planning section for it, when we went into the common room to see if it would work, as a group we thought that it went brilliantly, and then we went round audience feedback, and most audience feedback was the exact same, as they all thought it was brilliant. But then in the same sense we had some audience feedback which varied, because they thought that it challenges the conventions of an indie genre, as the transition I'm on about is with the guitar, when we switch from the bedroom to YouTube, and the action of the guitar hitting the camera was seen as aggressive, and that was the first sense of audience feedback which we got. And as a group we sat down and discussed possibilities of the way of rearranging this, and this is the main audience feedback and the main change which we made throughout the whole video, because it got glooming because we did not realise that it was challenging the conventions until we were told, and we did not realise how to get away from this, and how to, as we really liked the transition, we really liked how we came up with that transition, but we wanted to reinforce it, so we were thinking of ways. But from that audience feedback, if we didn't get that audience feedback, we would never have done that, and then we would have used that within the video. And since we've changed it to just me putting the guitar down, it's the same effectiveness, but yet it adds the innocent connotations of innocence, and it gets rid of all them connotations that got aggressive, got an attacking symbol or anything like that. But if we left it with the attacking, not the attacking, but the aggressive swing, it would ruin the whole music video, because it's at the introduction of the music video. And since we're doing indie genre, if we introduce the video in with such aggressive connotations, them aggressive connotations are gonna may decrease as the video goes on, but they're going to expand. Not expand, but they're going to go along, and it's going to change an audience's view. So that's how important that audience feedback was on, because if we didn't get that, we would have ruined the music video. Not only that, because that was the first sense of audience feedback which we got, the more the development has went on, so I can't remember if it was the second or the third draft, but on that draft we went around to get audience feedback with a sheet as a group. And so what was pleasing is the audience feedback was more so good, but you also have some bad audience feedback. So sorry. The good audience feedback is effective because it kind of shows that through drafting we're getting to stages where we're nearly finished. So say if I interviewed 20 audience feedback and 17 of them told me it was brilliant and 3 of them said it wasn't, I obviously know that I'm just an inch closer to getting perfection on my music video. But them 3 audience are not, I'm not saying because there's 17 that say it's good, 3 aren't. Them 3 is just as important as them, because them 3 have picked on something no one else has. And as soon as they say what's gonna, as a group we would sit down and have a look. So say when we did our draft, when we did our research audience feedback in the second draft, we had some pick up on some shots which we thought were poor. And through that, we sat down as a group, we discussed, we looked through the shots, and we rearranged the shots and took different shots. That's what I think's really. And then yet again we start developing, and then such another audience feedback which I thought was really effective towards me, because while we were producing it, I suggested the idea of doing performance shots as when we was when we was doing the first drafting, and this is where the group kind of disagreed, because some members in the group didn't want to do performance shots, whereas personally I wanted to, because as me being someone who listens to indie genre and watches indie genre music videos, I know that performance shots are pretty important. my perfect example is Train Drive-By, as despite the clothing don't match within the performance and the narrative, the performance shots are really important. So I've introduced this idea, and the group, we've got into debate and we can't come to a conclusion. But through audience feedback, we realised it was a good aspect and we went along with it. Through audience feedback, the audience told us that it was a good aspect, that they really did enjoy it, and they told us that we should put it in. We should keep it in because it was in our drafts when we just had the audience feedback. So just through elements of audience feedback, I've just spoke about 3 different features, such as the transitions, such as some of the shots that were used, and the performance shots. That's why I'm saying audience feedback is really important. And despite we finished our final draft, more importantly, it is important for audience feedback because it states whether you finished or not. So say I put my music video on my Facebook to see what my friends would say about the audience, as they would just think they were commenting on the video, but really it's they're in audience research, but they don't know it. And if I read out the range of comments that I got nice lighting, nice blazer, so that's about the costumes. Really good video, lovely singing in indie tone. See, so someone's picked up on the indie tone through just listening through the music, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. I like the transitions. We experimented with the transition so much, and we consistently use the exact same transition throughout, and consistency. And to see someone say they like the transition, it shows that it worked. Like all the camera angles and the song match nice to the video. There, it's adding it. Someone commented on the consistency. Someone adding on the relevance that we've explored and the irony. It's someone noting down something, one of our features that we've used, and noting that it's good. So we know that it's good. Love the setting, great choice. So there's someone picking on the setting that we used, which is highly important because when we were in the early stages of planning, we were debating on whether, because we did have a different location picked, but through the time we had and how far it was, and we had no way of getting there, we rearranged, which was one element that we were risking about. But to hear feedback saying loving the setting, it shows that it works. And then the final one was, actually love this video, it's really good. The camera work is amazing too. That it just shows that of 2 things have been picked up about the camera angles and the camera. Everything we've used is being commented on just all my friends, and that audience feedback in itself, and this is why I think audience feedback is so effective in a conclusion, because audience feedback is the feedback of why you're doing the product. So if you have good audience feedback, you've obviously got a good product, and every feature that we have put in our product has been commented on my Facebook post, highlighting that we have done a good media product, and no one has commented saying there should be no sign of improvement. So until I have an audience feedback saying there's a sign of improvement, I don't think there will be a sign of improvement. So that's why I think audience feedback is essential.